This one thing destroyed your soulmate connection forever. Don't scroll, listen to this. This message is for you, and your heart needs this right now, because if you've been feeling that quiet ache lately, the one that shows up when you're alone, the one that hits when a memory surfaces out of nowhere, that ache didn't appear randomly, it's the echo of something unfinished. And listen to this, there was one subtle thing, not dramatic, not obvious, not loud, that slowly weakened the bond between you and your soulmate, and your heart needs this right now because it wasn't betrayal, it wasn't distance alone, it wasn't even another person, it was emotional silence, the moments when feelings went unspoken, when needs stayed hidden, when vulnerability was replaced with pride. And don't scroll, because the universe wants you to understand this, not to blame yourself, but to awaken you. And listen to this. Soulmate connections don't usually break from explosions, they fade from quiet neglect. From assuming the other person already knows, from choosing comfort over honesty, and your heart needs this right now because you remember that moment, even if you try to forget it, the time you held something inside instead of saying it, the time you didn't reach out because you were tired, hurt, distracted, or afraid. And don't scroll, because that moment created a ripple, and ripples don't disappear. They travel through time and emotion. And listen to this, your soulmate felt that shift instantly, not with anger, but with confusion, sadness, and doubt, and your heart needs this right now because they didn't just lose communication, they lost emotional safety, and when emotional safety disappears, even love struggles to breathe. And don't scroll, because the universe has been trying to get your attention since then, showing you angel numbers at strange times, 111 when regret rises, 444 when healing thoughts appear, 555 when change feels unavoidable. And listen to this, those numbers are not coincidence, they are spiritual reminders that a lesson is unfolding. And your heart needs this right now because you've been waking up emotionally, noticing patterns in your relationships, recognizing where you stayed quiet when you should have spoken, where you avoided vulnerability to protect yourself. And don't scroll, because this awakening is not punishment, it's preparation. And listen to this, your soulmate has been processing this loss quietly, carrying it in ways you may never see, releasing tears in private, pretending to move on while still holding fragments of the connection inside their heart. And your heart needs this right now because they didn't stop caring instantly, they slowly closed emotional doors to protect themselves from reopening wounds. And don't scroll, because that closing didn't happen out of hate, it happened out of survival. And listen to this, the universe allowed this separation not to destroy you, but to reshape you, to teach you the cost of silence, the value of emotional honesty, the power of vulnerability. And your heart needs this right now because you are not the same person you were back then, you are stronger, more aware, more emotionally intelligent. And don't scroll, because that growth is important, it's the reason this message is reaching you now. And listen to this. Destiny doesn't always give second chances, but it always gives lessons, and sometimes the lesson is what rebuilds you for something better, even if the original connection feels lost. And your heart needs this right now because you've been carrying guilt, regret, or unanswered questions, wondering if you ruined something sacred. And don't scroll, because the universe wants you to release self-blame and step into understanding. And listen to this, the one thing that damaged the connection was not lack of love, it was lack of emotional presence, and emotional presence is something you can cultivate now, even if the past cannot be changed. And your heart needs this right now because this realization is preparing you for the next phase of your journey, whether that means healing this connection, finding closure, or attracting a healthier soulmate alignment. And don't scroll, because nothing you experience spiritually is wasted. Every heartbreak carries wisdom, every separation carries growth. And listen to this, if your chest feels heavy or warm right now, that's confirmation that this message touched a truth your soul already knew, and your heart needs this right now because part 1 ends here for a reason. This is the awakening stage, the moment you finally see what really happened beneath the surface, and what comes next will reveal whether this connection is truly finished or if the universe has one final twist waiting for you, one that could change everything. So stay present, stay open, stay gentle with yourself, because destiny is not done speaking yet. Stay with this moment, because now we move deeper into the hidden layer of what truly happened. And don't scroll, listen to this. This message is for you. Your heart needs this right now, because after emotional silence created distance, something else quietly took root: misunderstanding. Not loud arguments, not dramatic breakups, but assumptions that replaced conversation, stories your mind created when answers were missing, interpretations built on fear instead of facts. And listen to this, when communication fades, imagination fills the gap, and imagination often paints pictures darker than reality. And your soulmate felt that shift too, sensing confusion replace clarity, sensing uncertainty replace security, and that emotional fog made both of you pull inward instead of reaching outward. And don't scroll, because this is important. The universe allowed that fog not to destroy you, but to reveal how deeply you crave real connection. And your heart needs this right now because you've probably replayed moments in your mind, wondering what you should have said differently, what you should have done sooner, what you should have noticed earlier. And listen to this, regret is not meant to trap you, it's meant to wake you up. And awakening is happening now, because you're finally seeing that love cannot survive on assumption, it survives on presence, honesty, emotional availability, and conscious effort. And don't scroll, because this realization is reshaping your spiritual awareness, teaching you that soul connections are not sustained by fate alone, they are nurtured by choice. And listen to this, your soulmate didn't walk away because they stopped caring. They stepped back because the emotional atmosphere became heavy, unclear, unstable, and when hearts feel unsafe, they protect themselves by creating distance. And your heart needs this right now because you are beginning to understand that protection is not rejection, it's self-preservation. And don't scroll, because the universe has been sending you signals about this transformation, subtle reminders through repeating numbers, emotional triggers, dreams that carry symbolic meaning, moments when memories resurface unexpectedly. And listen to this, those signs are not random, they are spiritual nudges encouraging reflection, growth, and emotional maturity. And your heart needs this right now because something powerful is happening inside you. You're no longer blaming only circumstances, you're recognizing your role in emotional dynamics, not with shame, but with awareness. And awareness creates empowerment, and empowerment allows healing. And don't scroll, because healing is the real purpose of this phase. Not reunion alone, not closure alone, but inner alignment. And listen to this, when inner alignment happens, external outcomes begin shifting naturally, whether that means reconnecting with clarity, releasing the past peacefully, or attracting a healthier soulmate vibration. And your heart needs this right now because you are standing at a crossroads of emotional evolution, the point where you choose growth instead of repeating cycles, understanding instead of resentment, truth instead of denial. And don't scroll, because your soulmate is also going through a similar internal process, even if you're not aware of it, questioning their own reactions, recognizing emotional patterns, reflecting on what they contributed to the distance. and listen to this, when two souls reflect simultaneously, alignment becomes possible again, even if the form looks different than before, and your heart needs this right now because you've been feeling emotional sensitivity lately. Moments of nostalgia, waves of reflection, quiet longing mixed with calm acceptance, and those feelings are not weakness, they are signs of emotional integration, the process of turning pain into wisdom. And don't scroll, because the universe uses these emotional waves to prepare you for the next step, to soften your heart, to remove bitterness, to open space for compassion. And listen to this, compassion does not mean returning to unhealthy dynamics, it means understanding the lesson without carrying the wound forward. And your heart needs this right now because you are being asked to forgive, not necessarily to forget, but to release emotional weight that keeps you tied to the past. And don't scroll, because forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for your freedom. And listen to this, when you release emotional heaviness, your energy shifts, your frequency rises, and when frequency rises, new opportunities appear. And your soulmate connection, whether with the same person or a new aligned partner, responds to that shift, and your heart needs this right now. Because destiny is not fixed, it responds to growth, awareness, and emotional maturity. And don't scroll, because you are no longer the same person who experienced that loss, you are evolving, becoming more emotionally intelligent, more spiritually aware, more capable of holding deep connection without losing yourself. And listen to this, that evolution is the real gift hidden inside this painful chapter. And your heart needs this right now because the universe is preparing you for a new emotional season, one built on clarity instead of confusion, honesty instead of silence, mutual effort instead of emotional guessing. And don't scroll, because the next phase will reveal whether this connection transforms into healing closure or unexpected reconnection. But either way, it will arrive with purpose, not randomness. And listen to this, the story is not finished yet, it's simply shifting direction. And part 2 ends here because the foundation is now laid, the awareness has begun. The emotional fog is clearing. And what comes next will show you how this lesson becomes movement, how this awakening becomes action, and how this chapter leads into the next stage of your destiny. Stay present as this next layer opens, because now we move into the emotional aftermath that followed that quiet breakdown, the phase where distance didn't just separate two people, it reshaped identities, habits, and inner worlds. And if you've noticed yourself becoming more guarded, more selective with affection, more cautious about trusting again, that didn't happen randomly, it formed from experience. And your soulmate went through a similar internal shift, learning to protect their heart. After feeling unseen, unheard, or emotionally disconnected, and listen carefully, protection does not erase love, it reorganizes it, placing walls where openness once lived. And those walls were built slowly, brick by brick, through unanswered messages, missed opportunities, unresolved tension, and moments when both of you hoped the other would speak first. And this mutual hesitation created emotional stagnation, not because love vanished, but because vulnerability was delayed. And during this period, the universe began reshaping both of you individually, pushing growth through discomfort, forcing reflection through solitude, and teaching self-awareness through silence. And you may have felt this as loneliness, emotional heaviness, or deep introspection, but beneath those feelings was transformation, because transformation rarely arrives gently, it arrives through discomfort that awakens deeper understanding. And this understanding is now surfacing, helping you recognize patterns that once repeated unconsciously, showing you where you avoided honesty, where fear shaped decisions, where pride blocked emotional expression. and this recognition is powerful, because it breaks cycles, and cycle breaking creates new emotional possibilities, and your soulmate has been experiencing similar realizations, even if they haven't voiced them, questioning their own reactions, analyzing moments where they withdrew instead of communicating, noticing how silence became easier than vulnerability, and this awareness is changing them, reshaping how they approach connection, shifting them from emotional avoidance into readiness for healthier engagement, and while this happens, you are stepping into emotional responsibility, not blame, but ownership of your growth, recognizing that love requires participation, not just feeling, presence, not just attraction, effort, not just destiny. And this realization elevates you, placing you in a higher emotional frequency, one that attracts clarity rather than confusion, alignment rather than chaos, and during this phase, you may notice symbolic signs around you, recurring numbers, meaningful dreams, emotional triggers surfacing unexpectedly. These are not distractions, they are signals that internal change is aligning with external movement, guiding you toward resolution, whether through healing conversation, peaceful closure, or renewed connection built on stronger foundation, and this stage is about emotional cleansing, releasing old resentment, disappointment, or guilt that has been stored quietly inside your heart, because unresolved emotion weighs down future connection, and the universe is inviting you to lighten that load. Now, to let go of narratives that keep you tied to pain, to replace them with understanding and compassion, not only toward your soulmate, but toward yourself, because self-forgiveness is essential for emotional freedom, and emotional freedom creates space for new experiences, new relationships, new possibilities, and while this release process unfolds, you may feel moments of emotional relief followed by brief waves of sadness. And that is normal, because healing is not linear, it moves in cycles, but each cycle carries more clarity than the last, and clarity is what you've been seeking all along, even when you thought you wanted answers from your soulmate. What you truly needed was understanding within yourself, and now that understanding is forming, strengthening your intuition, sharpening your emotional awareness, helping you recognize what aligns with your heart and what no longer fits, and this alignment is crucial, because it determines what kind of love you allow moving forward, whether with the same person or a new soulmate frequency, and this stage is also teaching patience, not passive waiting, but conscious presence, the ability to sit with emotions without reacting impulsively, the ability to respond thoughtfully rather than emotionally exploding or shutting down, and this patience creates emotional intelligence, and emotional intelligence transforms relationships, because it allows communication to happen without defensiveness, understanding to replace assumption, listening to replace argument, and respect to replace ego, and this shift in emotional skill set is preparing you for the next phase of your journey, one that will involve clearer interaction, stronger boundaries, and deeper honesty, and as this preparation continues, you may feel a subtle sense of readiness growing inside you, like your heart is becoming lighter, more open, less burdened by the past. And that readiness is the signal that healing is working, that growth is integrating, that the universe is aligning your energy with a new chapter, and that chapter is approaching, not with chaos, not with confusion, but with purpose, clarity, and emotional truth, and part 3 ends here because this is the inner transformation stage, the moment where old emotional weight dissolves and new awareness takes root, and what comes next will reveal how this internal shift becomes visible in your outer world, how conversations change, how connections realign, and how destiny responds to the growth you've embraced. Remain present as this next phase unfolds, because now we step into the energetic turning point, the moment when inner transformation begins influencing external reality. And if you've felt a subtle shift in your surroundings lately, like people, conversations, or opportunities feel different, that's not coincidence, it's alignment responding to your growth, and your soulmate is experiencing similar changes. Noticing patterns breaking, old habits losing power, emotional reactions softening, and this shift is reshaping how both of you interact with the world, not just with each other. And this stage is important because it marks the transition from internal healing into outward expression, where lessons learned start shaping behavior, and behavior determines outcomes. And while this unfolds, you may find yourself communicating more intentionally, choosing words more carefully, listening more deeply, reacting less impulsively, and these changes reflect emotional maturity, not distance. Because maturity allows connection to evolve instead of repeating cycles, and your soulmate is also becoming more mindful of how they show up emotionally, recognizing that presence matters more than promises, that consistency matters more than intensity, and this awareness is guiding them toward healthier patterns of interaction, not driven by fear or insecurity, but by intention and respect. And as this transformation continues, you may notice synchronicities appearing around you. Repeating number sequences during moments of reflection, unexpected reminders of the connection, symbolic signs that carry emotional meaning. These are not random, they are spiritual confirmations that your emotional frequency is shifting, and frequency shift attracts new experiences, new conversations, new opportunities for clarity. And clarity is what this stage is preparing you for, because clarity brings resolution, and resolution allows closure or renewal to happen without emotional chaos. And this phase often feels calmer than earlier emotional storms, because it's guided by understanding rather than confusion, and understanding creates emotional stability, and stability supports honest interaction. And honest interaction is what heals unresolved tension, and as this process unfolds, you may feel moments of relief, sudden understanding, or emotional lightness replacing heaviness, and these sensations indicate that old emotional residue is dissolving, creating space for healthier connection patterns to form. And those new patterns are more balanced, more respectful, more aligned with who you've become, and alignment ensures that the relationships you nurture reflect growth rather than repeating past wounds, and this stage also invites you to evaluate your emotional boundaries, noticing where you previously overgave, where you undercommunicated, where you tolerated behavior that didn't align with your values, and this evaluation is powerful, because it teaches you how to protect your energy while remaining open to connection. And protection paired with openness creates emotional balance, and emotional balance allows love to grow without burnout, and burnout is what drained the connection before, and now that exhaustion is being replaced by awareness and intentionality, creating space for sustainable emotional exchange, and your soulmate is sensing this shift, feeling the emotional environment between you becoming steadier, less volatile, more grounded, and this steadiness creates safety, and safety encourages honesty, and honesty builds trust, and trust strengthens emotional bonds. And this chain reaction is forming now, quietly and naturally, without forcing outcomes, and as this foundation continues strengthening, you may notice your intuition becoming clearer, guiding you toward healthier communication, stronger boundaries, and more authentic expression, and these intuitive signals are essential, because they help you navigate this connection with wisdom rather than fear. And wisdom allows you to choose growth over comfort, truth over illusion, and alignment over attachment, and these choices shape the direction of your emotional journey, and this phase marks the beginning of visible change, not just internal growth, but external shifts in how the connection manifests, whether through renewed communication, emotional closure, or a new dynamic emerging, and whatever form it takes, it will feel different from before, because it will be rooted in awareness rather than uncertainty. And awareness creates clarity, and clarity supports purposeful connection. And purposeful connection carries meaning beyond temporary emotion, and as this stage continues, you may feel a sense of readiness building inside you, like your heart is prepared to face truth without fear, to receive answers without collapsing, to move forward without carrying the weight of the past, and that readiness is the signal that healing has integrated, that growth has matured, that the universe is aligning circumstances to reflect your inner transformation, and what comes next will involve emotional truth stepping into visibility, not as chaos, not as drama, but as honest expression, and that expression will open the door to the final stage of this journey, where resolution becomes reality and destiny reveals the outcome shaped by everything you've learned, experienced, and embodied along the way. Stay focused, because this phase carries the weight of emotional consequence, the part of the journey where understanding turns into realization and realization reshapes identity, and if you felt a quiet shift in your perspective lately, like your heart is seeing situations differently, that's not coincidence, it's wisdom settling into place, and wisdom changes how pain is interpreted, transforming loss into lesson, confusion into insight, and heartbreak into growth, and your soulmate is undergoing a similar inner recalibration, realizing that what happened wasn't simply about two people drifting apart, it was about unhealed patterns colliding, unmet needs going unnoticed, emotional expression being delayed until silence took over, and this awareness is altering how they process the past, no longer viewing it through blame, but through reflection, and reflection is powerful, because it reveals truth without distortion, and truth carries clarity, and clarity creates emotional freedom, and while this transformation unfolds, you may notice yourself becoming more emotionally selective, choosing peace over chaos, honesty over comfort, depth over surface-level connection, and this shift reflects self-respect, not emotional withdrawal, because self-respect allows you to engage with love without losing your identity, and identity matters, because when you know who you are, you stop accepting what doesn't align with your values, and this alignment is shaping the kind of relationships you attract moving forward, including soulmate-level connections, and during this phase, memories may resurface unexpectedly, not to reopen wounds, but to be processed differently, with compassion instead of resentment, understanding instead of regret, and these emotional revisits are part of healing integration, the process of releasing emotional residue stored in the subconscious. And when that residue dissolves, your energy becomes lighter, clearer, more receptive to new experiences, and this energetic shift doesn't just affect you internally, it influences your external reality, shaping how people respond to you, how opportunities appear, how connections evolve, and your soulmate is sensing this shift too, feeling the emotional dynamic between you change, becoming less tense, less reactive, more neutral, more grounded, and this neutrality creates space for honest interaction. Whether that honesty leads to reconnection, closure, or mutual understanding, and space is essential, because suffocated emotion cannot heal, but spacious awareness allows truth to breathe, and as this process continues, you may experience moments of emotional release, sudden clarity, or deep calm replacing inner turbulence, and these sensations signal that healing is working, that growth is integrating, that old emotional loops are losing their grip, and this integration is preparing you for the next stage, where action replaces reflection, where movement replaces Stagnation, where decisions begin shaping tangible outcomes, and this stage requires courage, not impulsive bravery, but steady confidence, the kind that comes from knowing your worth and honoring your emotional boundaries, and courage allows you to face truth without running, to accept reality without collapsing, to move forward without carrying unnecessary emotional weight, and while this courage builds, you may notice your communication style changing, becoming more direct, more honest, more intentional, and this shift reflects emotional maturity, not hardness, because maturity allows vulnerability without self-sacrifice, and vulnerability creates authentic connection, and authentic connection is what you've been craving beneath the surface all along, not fantasy, not idealization, but real emotional presence, and this presence begins with yourself, with how you show up for your own needs, your own feelings, your own healing, and as you strengthen this internal foundation, the universe responds by aligning experiences that match your new emotional frequency, and this alignment may bring unexpected encounters, surprising conversations, or meaningful synchronicities that confirm you're moving in the right direction, and these confirmations are not random, they are reflections of your internal shift becoming visible externally, and this visibility marks the beginning of a new chapter, one that no longer revolves around what was lost, but around what is being created. And creation requires intention, clarity, and emotional awareness, and you are developing all three now, step by step, through reflection, healing, and growth, and this development is not easy, but it is purposeful, shaping you into someone capable of sustaining deep, healthy connection without repeating old patterns, and your soulmate, whether the same person or a future aligned partner, will feel this difference, responding to your grounded energy with respect, curiosity, and emotional openness, and this openness will feel different from the past, because it will not be driven by uncertainty or fear, but by mutual awareness and intentional engagement, and as this phase continues unfolding, you may feel a sense of empowerment growing inside you, a quiet confidence that you can handle whatever outcome emerges, whether that involves reconnection, closure, or a new beginning. And this confidence is the result of emotional independence, the ability to stand strong without needing external validation, and emotional independence attracts healthier connection, because it removes desperation and replaces it with choice, and choice allows love to be intentional rather than accidental, and this intentional energy is what the universe is preparing you to embody, not just for this soulmate story, but for your entire emotional future, and part 5 ends here because this is the empowerment stage. The moment where healing becomes strength, awareness becomes confidence, and pain transforms into wisdom, and what comes next will reveal how this inner transformation begins shaping real-world outcomes, how choices become visible, how destiny responds to growth, and how the story continues unfolding beyond loss into something deeper, stronger, and more aligned with who you are becoming. Stay anchored in this moment, because now the energy shifts into manifestation, the stage where inner evolution begins shaping tangible outcomes, and if you've sensed subtle changes around you lately, like conversations feel different, opportunities appear unexpectedly, or emotional patterns start rearranging themselves, that's not coincidence, it's alignment responding to growth. And this alignment is influencing your soulmate connection in unseen ways, because when one heart evolves, the energetic field surrounding the bond adjusts, creating new possibilities that were not accessible before, and your soulmate is experiencing this shift internally, noticing their thoughts becoming clearer, their emotional reactions softening, their desire for authenticity growing stronger, and this inner change is guiding them toward more conscious behavior, not driven by impulse, but by intention, and intention carries power, because it transforms emotion into direction, and direction shapes destiny. And while this unfolds on their side, you are stepping into greater emotional sovereignty, recognizing that you no longer need external validation to feel whole, that your peace matters, that your boundaries deserve respect, and this recognition changes how you approach relationships, shifting from attachment into choice, from longing into alignment, and alignment attracts healthier interaction, because it operates from wholeness instead of need, and this stage often feels different from earlier phases, because it's not fueled by emotional turbulence, it's guided by calm awareness, and calm awareness creates clarity, and clarity supports confident decision-making, and confident decisions move life forward instead of keeping it stuck in cycles, and as this process continues, you may notice your communication style evolving, becoming more direct, more thoughtful, more intentional. And this evolution reflects emotional maturity, not detachment, because maturity allows vulnerability without losing stability, and stability creates emotional safety, and emotional safety allows deeper connection to grow without fear, and this safety is what both of you are learning to cultivate now, shaping how interactions unfold, how conversations feel, how emotional energy flows. And this shift in atmosphere is important, because it signals readiness for meaningful engagement rather than superficial connection, and readiness attracts opportunity, and opportunity invites action, and action reshapes reality, and this chain reaction is forming now, quietly and steadily, behind the scenes, and you may notice symbolic confirmations appearing around you, meaningful coincidences, repeating number patterns during moments of reflection, unexpected reminders of this connection, and these signs are not random, they are spiritual indicators that emotional timelines are aligning again. And alignment creates momentum, and momentum leads to movement, and movement brings expression, and expression changes everything, and this stage is about preparing for that expression, not by forcing outcomes, but by maintaining inner balance, emotional awareness, and grounded presence, because grounded presence allows truth to arrive without chaos, and chaos only creates confusion, while clarity creates understanding, and understanding heals emotional distance. And emotional distance is what weakened the connection before, and now that distance is narrowing through awareness and intentional growth, and your soulmate is sensing this shift, feeling drawn toward greater honesty, more emotional transparency, more sincere engagement, and this draw is not accidental, it's the natural response to alignment, and alignment always invites authenticity, and authenticity strengthens bonds, and stronger bonds create stability, and stability supports sustainable connection. And this foundation is forming now, quietly and naturally, without rushing, and as this foundation strengthens, you may experience moments of emotional release, sudden insight, or deep calm replacing lingering heaviness, and these experiences indicate that old emotional residue is dissolving, making space for new patterns to form, patterns rooted in respect, communication, and mutual understanding. And these patterns feel different from before, because they are not driven by fear or insecurity, but by awareness and intention changes how love is experienced, shifting it from reactive emotion into conscious participation, and conscious participation allows two people to co-create connection rather than react to circumstances, and this co-creation process is what the universe is guiding you toward. Not to recreate the past, but to build something healthier, more stable, more aligned with who you've become, and as this stage continues unfolding, you may feel a stronger sense of emotional readiness. Like your heart is prepared to face truth without collapsing, to receive clarity without resistance, to move forward without carrying unnecessary weight, and that readiness is the signal that healing has integrated, that growth has matured, that alignment is stabilizing, and when alignment stabilizes, external change follows naturally, not forced, not chaotic, but purposeful, and this purpose-driven movement is what comes next, the stage where intentions become actions, where awareness becomes behavior, where internal shifts manifest in the physical world. And this manifestation will not feel overwhelming, it will feel steady, grounded, and aligned with your values, because this journey has been refining your emotional compass, guiding you toward healthier connection dynamics, and now that refinement is becoming visible through your calm presence, clearer boundaries, and stronger self-respect, creating the emotional environment where meaningful interaction can thrive. And part 6 ends here because this is the manifestation preparation stage, the moment where inner transformation meets outer reality, and what comes next will reveal how this alignment begins shaping real-world outcomes, how choices become visible, how destiny responds to awareness, and how the story continues unfolding beyond healing into purposeful connection. Remain fully present as this next phase unfolds, because now the energy moves into emotional activation, the point where awareness transforms into motion and intention becomes visible through action, and if you've sensed a quiet readiness building inside you, like your heart is no longer stuck in reflection but preparing to step forward, that's not coincidence, it's momentum forming. And this momentum is influencing your soulmate connection in subtle but powerful ways, because your soulmate is experiencing a similar internal stirring, feeling compelled to reassess priorities, reconsider emotional choices, and approach relationships with greater honesty, and this inner stirring is not random, it's the natural result of growth meeting opportunity, and growth always seeks expression, and expression reshapes reality, and while this movement unfolds on their side, you are stepping into greater emotional agency. Recognizing that you have the power to choose how you respond, how you communicate, how you protect your peace, and this agency is transformative, because it shifts you from passive participant into conscious creator of your emotional experiences, and conscious creation changes everything, because it removes the feeling of helplessness and replaces it with purpose, and purpose guides action, and action shapes destiny, and this stage often feels different from earlier emotional cycles, because it's not driven by longing or regret, it's guided by clarity and grounded intention, and grounded intention creates stability, and stability supports meaningful interaction, and meaningful interaction allows connection to deepen without emotional turbulence, and as this process continues, you may notice changes in how you approach conversations, becoming more direct, more authentic, more willing to express truth without fear of rejection, and this shift reflects confidence, not emotional hardness, because confidence allows vulnerability without self-betrayal, and vulnerability deepens intimacy, and intimacy strengthens bonds, and stronger bonds create emotional resilience, and emotional resilience allows relationships to withstand challenges instead of collapsing under pressure, and this resilience is what both of you are learning to cultivate now, shaping how interactions unfold, how misunderstandings are handled, how emotional needs are communicated, and this new approach feels different from the past, because it's rooted in awareness rather than assumption, and awareness prevents misinterpretation, and misinterpretation is what weakened the connection before, and now that confusion is dissolving through intentional communication and emotional clarity, and your soulmate is sensing this change, feeling the emotional environment between you become steadier, more transparent, more supportive, and this shift is encouraging them to step forward with greater sincerity, not hiding behind ambiguity, not retreating into silence, but engaging with presence, and presence builds trust, and trust deepens emotional bonds, and emotional bonds support partnership, and partnership creates shared growth, and shared growth transforms individual healing into collective evolution, and this evolution is happening now, quietly, naturally, through small decisions, thoughtful interactions, and intentional behavior, and as this evolution continues, you may experience moments of emotional courage, choosing honesty over comfort, openness over avoidance, clarity over silence, and these choices matter, because they shape the direction of the connection, and direction determines outcome, and outcome reflects alignment, and alignment responds to emotional maturity, and maturity is what you've been developing throughout this journey, learning how to hold space for your feelings without being controlled by them, learning how to listen without immediately reacting, learning how to speak truth without fear of losing connection, and these skills are now becoming active tools in your emotional life, shaping how you engage with others, especially soulmate-level connections, and as this stage progresses, you may notice external signs reflecting this activation, unexpected conversations, meaningful encounters, symbolic synchronicities that confirm movement is happening, and these signs are not coincidences. They are mirrors of your internal shift becoming visible externally, and this visibility marks the transition into the next chapter, where emotional intention becomes tangible experience, and experience reshapes perception, and perception influences future choices, creating a cycle of growth rather than stagnation, and this cycle is what the universe has been guiding you toward, not to repeat old stories, but to rewrite them from a higher level of awareness, and as this activation continues, you may feel a sense of empowerment growing inside you, a quiet confidence that you can navigate whatever unfolds next with grace, strength, and emotional intelligence, and this empowerment is the result of integration, the process of turning lessons into wisdom, pain into clarity, and confusion into understanding, and now that integration is becoming action, shaping how you show up, how you communicate, how you love, and how you protect your emotional well-being, and this balance is essential, because it allows connection to grow without sacrificing self-respect, and self-respect attracts healthier dynamics, and healthier dynamics support sustainable love, and sustainable love is what soulmate connections are meant to become when both hearts evolve, and Part 7 ends here because this is the activation stage, the moment when growth stops being internal and begins influencing the world around you, and what comes next will reveal how this activation transforms into real-world change, how conversations shift, how opportunities appear, and how destiny responds to the choices you are now ready to make. Remain grounded as this next layer unfolds, because now the energy enters the phase of emotional convergence, where separate growth paths begin intersecting again in unexpected ways, and if you've sensed subtle changes in timing, chance encounters, or communication patterns around you, that's not coincidence, it's alignment reorganizing circumstances. And this reorganization is influencing your soulmate connection quietly, creating openings that didn't exist before, and your soulmate is feeling this shift too, noticing internal nudges that encourage reflection, honesty, and reevaluation of past choices, and this reevaluation is not driven by regret alone, it's guided by awareness, the understanding that unresolved emotion does not disappear, it waits for healing, and healing requires courage, and courage is beginning to surface now, shaping how they think about connection, vulnerability, and emotional responsibility, and while this internal movement unfolds on their side, you are stepping into stronger emotional discernment, recognizing which patterns deserve release and which values deserve protection, and this discernment is powerful, because it allows you to engage with relationships from clarity rather than habit, and clarity changes interaction, shifting it from reactive behavior into intentional exchange, and intentional exchange builds respect, and respect deepens emotional bonds. And deeper bonds support meaningful connection, and this stage often feels like quiet preparation rather than dramatic change, because it's guided by subtle awareness instead of urgency, and subtle awareness carries strength, because it allows you to move thoughtfully rather than impulsively, and thoughtful movement creates stability, and stability supports honest communication, and honest communication is what heals emotional distance, and emotional distance is what weakened the connection earlier, and now that distance is narrowing through understanding and intentional behavior, and your soulmate is sensing this narrowing, feeling the emotional atmosphere between you become softer, more receptive, more open to truth, and this openness is encouraging them to approach the connection differently, with greater sincerity and presence changes everything, because it replaces avoidance with engagement and replaces silence with awareness. And awareness allows meaningful conversation to unfold without unnecessary tension, and as this convergence continues, you may notice your intuition becoming sharper, guiding you toward healthier choices, clearer boundaries, and more authentic expression, and these intuitive signals are not random, they are reflections of your inner alignment becoming stronger. And inner alignment attracts experiences that match your emotional frequency, and frequency influences what enters your life, including soulmate-level interactions. And this stage is also teaching emotional patience, not passive waiting, but grounded trust, the ability to remain present without forcing outcomes, the ability to stay open without attaching to specific results, and this balance is essential, because it prevents emotional burnout and supports sustainable connection, and sustainable connection requires steady effort, mutual respect, and emotional honesty, not intensity alone, and intensity without stability often leads to collapse, while stability creates longevity, and this stability is forming now, quietly and intentionally, through repeated awareness, consistent behavior, and thoughtful interaction, and as this foundation strengthens, you may experience moments of emotional clarity, sudden insight, or inner calm replacing lingering heaviness, and these experiences indicate that healing is integrating, that growth is settling into your emotional structure, shaping how you approach love moving forward. And this shaping process is not just about this soulmate connection, it's about your overall relationship with intimacy, trust, and vulnerability, and this broader transformation ensures that whatever unfolds next will be healthier, more aligned, more reflective of who you've become, and while this process continues, your soulmate is also undergoing personal growth, questioning old emotional habits, recognizing patterns that no longer serve them, and becoming more open to change. And this shared evolution is creating resonance, the subtle feeling of being drawn toward the same emotional frequency again, and resonance does not guarantee the same outcome, but it creates opportunity, and opportunity invites choice, and choice determines direction, and right now both of you are approaching a moment where direction becomes clearer, where emotional decisions will shape the next chapter of this story, and this clarity is not arriving suddenly, it's building gradually, through awareness, reflection, and alignment, and as it builds, you may feel more confident in your ability to handle truth, more prepared to receive answers, more grounded in your sense of self, and this confidence is essential, because it allows you to approach connection from strength rather than fear, and strength attracts healthier dynamics, and healthier dynamics support meaningful emotional exchange, and meaningful exchange deepens understanding, and understanding builds trust, and trust strengthens bonds. And this chain reaction is forming now, shaping the emotional environment around this connection, and as this environment stabilizes, the next stage will involve clearer expression, not just internal realization, but external communication, and that communication will feel different from before, because it will be rooted in emotional maturity rather than confusion, and maturity allows honesty to arrive without causing unnecessary harm. And harm is what both of you are learning to avoid now through awareness and intentional growth, and this awareness is what transforms pain into wisdom, separation into understanding, and silence into opportunity for deeper connection. And as this phase continues unfolding, you may sense a quiet readiness building inside you, like your heart is preparing for a significant emotional moment, whether that is reconnection, closure, or a new beginning shaped by everything you've learned, and that readiness is the signal that you are no longer stuck in the past. You are moving forward with clarity, strength, and emotional intelligence, and this movement is what the universe has been guiding you toward all along, not to repeat old stories, but to create a healthier narrative rooted in growth, awareness, and conscious choice. Stay centered as this next stage unfolds, because now the journey enters the phase of emotional reckoning, where truth begins pressing gently but firmly against the surface of awareness. And if you felt moments of sudden clarity lately, like certain memories now look different than they once did, that's not coincidence, it's perception evolving, and evolving perception reshapes how you interpret the past, transforming blame into understanding and confusion into insight, and your soulmate is experiencing a similar internal shift, recognizing that what once felt like loss now looks more like unfinished healing, and this recognition is guiding them toward greater emotional responsibility, encouraging thoughtful reflection rather than avoidance. And reflection carries power, because it reveals patterns that were once invisible, showing where fear influenced decisions, where silence replaced honesty, where pride blocked vulnerability, and as these realizations settle in, behavior begins changing naturally, not through force, but through awareness, and awareness shapes intention, and intention shapes action, and action reshapes reality. And while this process unfolds on their side, you are stepping deeper into emotional mastery, learning how to regulate feelings instead of being controlled by them, learning how to pause before reacting, learning how to choose peace without suppressing truth. And this mastery is essential, because it allows you to navigate emotional situations with clarity instead of chaos, and clarity creates emotional safety, and emotional safety supports honest connection. And this stage often feels different from earlier phases, because it's not driven by longing or regret, it's guided by grounded awareness, and grounded awareness creates steadiness, and steadiness allows deeper understanding to take root. And as this understanding grows, you may notice your priorities shifting, valuing sincerity over excitement, authenticity over appearance, depth over surface-level interaction, and these shifts reflect spiritual maturity, not emotional withdrawal, because maturity refines what you seek in connection, aligning you with relationships that support growth rather than repeating old wounds. And this refinement is influencing your soulmate too, encouraging them to reconsider what truly matters in emotional partnership, not external validation, not temporary attraction, but meaningful presence and mutual respect. And this shared reevaluation is creating subtle resonance between you, the feeling that something unresolved is being gently drawn toward resolution. And resolution doesn't always mean reunion, it means emotional clarity, the ability to understand what happened without carrying resentment forward, and emotional clarity frees energy, and free energy creates space for new experiences, new opportunities, new connections aligned with your current frequency, and as this freeing process continues, you may experience moments of emotional release, sudden peace, or unexpected calm replacing inner tension, and these sensations signal that healing is integrating, that old emotional weight is dissolving, that your nervous system is learning safety again, and safety is crucial, because it allows vulnerability to exist without fear, and vulnerability deepens connection, whether with your soulmate or future aligned relationships. And this stage is also teaching acceptance, not resignation, but the ability to acknowledge reality without resisting it, and acceptance creates emotional stability, and stability allows forward movement, and forward movement is what this journey has been guiding you toward, not staying stuck in memory, not replaying the same story, but stepping into a new chapter shaped by wisdom, awareness, and self-respect. And while this process unfolds, you may notice your intuition becoming more reliable, guiding you toward healthier choices, clearer communication, stronger boundaries, and more authentic expression, and these intuitive nudges are reflections of your inner alignment strengthening, and inner alignment attracts experiences that match your emotional frequency, and frequency influences what enters your life, including soulmate-level connections, and this stage also encourages emotional honesty with yourself, acknowledging what you truly want, what you no longer tolerate, what you deserve in partnership, and this honesty is powerful, because it prevents you from settling for less than what aligns with your values, and alignment creates fulfillment, and fulfillment supports emotional independence, and emotional independence allows love to be a choice rather than a need, and choice creates healthier dynamics, and healthier dynamics support sustainable connection, and sustainable connection is what soulmate bonds are meant to become when both hearts evolve. And as this phase continues, you may feel a stronger sense of inner authority. The quiet confidence that comes from knowing your worth and honoring your boundaries, and this authority changes how others interact with you, inviting respect instead of disregard, sincerity instead of ambiguity, and this shift in interaction is part of the external transformation that follows internal growth, and external transformation reflects internal change, creating a feedback loop that reinforces emotional stability and clarity, and this stage marks the approach toward final resolution. The moment where everything you've learned begins shaping tangible outcomes, whether through conversation, closure, reconnection, or a new beginning aligned with your growth, and that outcome will not arrive randomly, it will reflect the emotional work you've done, the awareness you've gained, the patterns you've released, and the boundaries you've established, and as this realization settles in, you may feel a quiet readiness forming inside you. The sense that you are prepared to face whatever comes next without fear, without attachment, without resistance, and that readiness is the true sign of transformation, the point where pain becomes wisdom, loss becomes understanding, and heartbreak becomes strength, and this strength will guide you into the final stage of this journey, where destiny reveals the results shaped by everything you've learned, healed, and embodied along the way.